Nope, that's what I want. Development theory. So remember, the last time we talked about a theory was on Tuesday when we looked at the least cost theory, right? And that triangle is what we looked at last time. Today we're looking at two different development models that two guys came up with to explain how a country can grow or develop. And kind of relationships between countries in their development. So they kind of have different ideas on how it can be represented. You should have read about it this week in 7.5. Yeah, 7.5. And they were both listed out in charts, but I'm going to give us some visuals today so that maybe it will make a little bit more sense, okay? The first guy that we're going to start with, his name is Rostow. He was an economist in the 60s. What was going on in the 60s?
Slavery. Cold War.
Not slavery.
Oh, Vietnam.
1960s. 1960s.
Yeah.
We're more recent here. Cold War. It's the Cold War. What was the basis of the Cold War?
Economy, military power, and
Yeah.
nuclear power.
Economy, more so like what? Like how were people differing on how they ran their economies? Or different countries?
Communist versus capitalist.
Yeah, communist versus capitalism. Okay? Communism versus capitalism. So that's really kind of the different ways our world was running economies at that point. Lots of countries were capitalist, and there were quite a few countries who were communist. The very different ways of running your country and running your economy, okay? It was us versus who? Who was the communist country? Yeah, the USSR. Yeah, okay. So this guy Rostow came up with this theory to try to explain to other people how a country could develop through capitalism, and that's the way we wanted to encourage other countries to do it like we did it, okay? Not to follow communism, okay? So his model, he came up with a model. It has 5 stages. Sometimes it's called the ladder of development. The ladder of development. And I'm going to draw a ladder on my page so that we can see it. So with this ladder, the thought process was the higher you go up the ladder, the more developed you're going to get. The end goal for this theory is to end up at the top, is to end in stage 5, okay? So let's talk about each of the stages. I'll use green. We start at the bottom with stage 1. Can you see the green? Yeah. It's called traditional. This is the traditional stage. Here in the traditional stage, we have a lot of primary activities. Like what? What were primary activities that we've been talking about? Mining, farming, yeah. I'm going to draw some little pictures of, here's my crops. Okay. Mining, fishing, right? Not a whole lot of extra things going on to earn money for a country. They don't have a lot of technology. This is like where the world was before the Industrial Revolution. Like everybody was in stage 1 before industrialization. Today, it is important that you know that there is no country in this stage here today.
Hold on a second.
Hold on.
What about the places that aren't recognized but are technically operating like this?
Entirely. Okay, fair. There can be parts of countries, but economies as a whole national economy, there's not going to be a whole country here in stage 1 today. We have at least developed a little bit, and it's going to make more sense. Don't wait, hold your questions. It's going to make more sense when I talk about it here in a second, okay? This is like we're not selling much of anything at this point to make a profit. Like, we're kind of self-sustainable right here. Economies are not a thing yet in the world. What?
Is that third word entirely? On the screen?
Yeah, entirely. Sorry, I had to cram it in there.
Century Islands.
Okay, so think like long time ago. This is like U.S. Like 13 colonies, like 1700s for us. Okay, long time ago, before we had like an established economy at all. Okay, so then we hit stage 2. I'm still green. Yeah, let's change. Let's go orange. Stage 2. Stage 2 is called, it's long, preconditions for takeoff. It's weird, I know. Preconditions for takeoff. Think like an airplane. Preconditions for takeoff. Here's his light bulb. So,
A happy dude.
he is happy because he just got an idea. Okay? In stage 2, this is where you start to figure out, like, oh, I have a lot of blank. Maybe I have the right type of environment, climate, soil to produce a lot of cotton or wheat, some sort of agricultural product, or maybe you have good natural resources, like maybe you have access to copper or maybe you have oil that you can drill for, okay? But when you have a lot of something, a lot of some sort of like natural resource, and you have people figure that out, oh, maybe we could sell that. If we made a lot of it, maybe we could sell it and start making a profit off of it. That's like what happens in this stage, okay? So when you you're reaching that idea of, okay, maybe I can earn something for my economy so that we can better our country as a whole. We can start making money in our country. Okay? Today, these are countries like I think your book says Niger and Afghanistan. What types of countries are those?
LDCs.
Yep, LDCs. Ooh, and you know what? And I told you wrong. This, on my notes I have over here, this is like when we got like English colonies, 1700s. That's this stage, okay? Because we had a little bit of not really trading partners, but we were selling things, right, to Great Britain, or we were shipping off our stuff to Great Britain, right?
Someone had stores, right? Little settlements.
Yeah, right. Little kinds of stores, right? So we're making a little bit for our country, right? Or for our economy, but we're figuring things out. It's gonna be super slow. These are this is where you're starting to see a little bit of factory growth a little bit here. Maybe factories, maybe a lot of primary activities here, but we're able to make a profit off of those things that we're making in the primary sector. Okay, so then stage 3. Let's talk about stage 3. Stage 3 takes it up a notch. Stage 3 is called takeoff. Stage 3 is the takeoff. This is like industrialization, okay? We're not rich, but we've figured out how to make a little bit more money. We see a lot of urbanization. Here's my people. They're moving to the cities. Okay, that's my picture for this one. So you're starting to develop, people are leaving the rural areas because there are starting to be better jobs in the cities where the factories are. And you're starting to see just the growth of cities, okay? When you see this change of primary to secondary types of jobs, that shift from rural to more urban areas, these are going to be like our NIC countries, our newer NIC countries. Bangladesh is an example from the textbook, Vietnam. We've been talking about Mexico the last couple of days in class. These are like our newer NIC countries. Okay, so they've figured out industrialization a little bit. They've figured out the machinery. They've figured out how to start making things at a larger quantity so that they can start selling those things and earn a profit for it. Okay? The next level is stage 4. Stage 4 is called drive to maturity. Drive to maturity. This is represented by a lot of industrial growth here. Okay, so here's my picture, IR growth. Because now we are trading with anyone who will listen, who will trade with us. Okay, so maybe in stage 3, we started trading with maybe local or nearby countries to start generating that revenue from our factories. Here in stage 4, we're trading all over the place, okay? We're starting to build those connections and those relationships around the world to buy our products, to invest in us. So there's that cash flow, there's that money coming in and into our economy. We're generating that. We see lots of people moving to cities. We see the growth of technology. We see better infrastructure. Do you know what the term infrastructure means? Yeah? Okay, what is it?
It's like the
like houses or like roads.
Okay, there's like a lot of things that are involved in infrastructure. I have this little guy up here on the board, infrastructure man. There's 6 things, 6 categories that kind of include infrastructure: education, the economy, healthcare, communication, utilities, transportation. It's a lot of stuff that can be considered infrastructure. Yes.
things that a country builds up or are built up of.
Yeah, things that a country can build. But also like the economy too.
No, build up, like
Build up,
not
like-
using it as in like that context, like building.
Oh.
Like build up, like increase.
Yeah, that's the goal. So
Yeah.
with infrastructure, you do want your infrastructure to build up and get better. That is going to show that you're developing. Okay, so in stage 4 here, you start to see better things like technology and communication and roads and social infrastructure like hospitals and education, or like schools and things like that, going up more in stage 4 because now they have more money for that. The growth of jobs, you still have a lot of factory jobs, but now you're starting to introduce those tertiary level jobs with the service sector a little bit more in stage 4. So you're really strong, like you're strong NIC country here. Our best examples of this would be probably China, India, Brazil. These are what I would call like our old NICs, our old NICs. They've been in this stage for a long time. They're getting there. They're like borderline MDC, right? Because they have so much money coming into their country, into their economy, and they're spending money on the right stuff, like all of the infrastructure. And they have those global relationships with their trade, okay? This would be us like in the late 1800s, kind of transitioning out of our factory work. We're transitioning out of this. This is like US in the late 1800s, okay? So then we reached stage 5 in like the early 1900s. Stage 5 is called high mass consumption. What types of countries are these?
MDC.
Yeah, MDCs for sure. These are like all of our MDCs. My picture for this one, a Pac-Man. Because when you are high mass consumption, you can eat, you can take everything. You have money to spend on extra things, right? Think about all the stuff that you have at your house. How many cell phones are in your house? How many TVs? How many cars do you own? How many iPads, tablets? How many vacations do you go on a year? All of that stuff is nice to have, right? It's not necessary to survive. That's extra money that we are spending, right? Because we have it. Yes.
So it's like countries like the U.S., how it's like we have a lot of luxuries that
Yes.
a lot of other countries don't have.
Yeah, I like that you use that term, luxuries. Yeah, we have extra luxury money that we can spend on the extra things, okay? So we are post-industrial at this point. We have lots of companies, lots of tertiary, quaternary types of jobs here, and we rely on other countries to support us with the things that we don't make anymore because we are trading with them and we're buying products from those other countries, okay? We have the disposable income. That extra money to spend. We hit this stage like early 1900s, okay? Your textbook has a whole section of things that's wrong with this theory, okay? All of the theories and models that we talk about are not perfect. Rostow's model here, the ladder, said that every country could move up this ladder and the goal would be to reach stage 5. You would move up it linear, like in a linear pattern through each stage to reach stage 5. But there's a lot of things that he didn't address, like how can every country be at a stage 5 country where we're just consuming everything and have the world, like have it be sustainable? How can we do that? He didn't address that. He didn't address countries that might fall back a stage because of whatever happened, a COVID outbreak, a disaster, whatever the case may be, a war. Look at Ukraine right now, right? He didn't consider or he didn't address those. He didn't explain what would happen in those situations. So there are some issues with it, but overall, this is a model that is used in our class to show, okay, you can move up. This can kind of tell us how you can be developed in these different stages, even though every country might hit the stage at a different time period. Like we got to stage 5 in the 1920s, right? And there are other countries in the world today that are in stage 2, 3, and stage 4 that are not in stage 5. So it's not a predetermined amount of time. Oh, you're going to be in stage 2 for 10 years and then you move up to stage 3. We don't know. Everybody kind of goes through it at a different pace depending on their circumstances. Okay, so it's not perfect, but this is the first one. This is Rostow. Okay? All right, let's do the next one. Next page. Cool. This guy, I think I used yellow, didn't I? This guy's name is, why do we always do that? Wallerstein. Wallerstein. So he is a historian, a little bit later than Rostow, in the 70s. His model has a couple different names for it. It can be called the World Systems Theory, World Systems Theory, or the Core Periphery Model.
We talked about that.
We talked about that?
Yeah.
You did?
We said periphery, semi-periphery, and then what's called core.
We already did that in class?
We did a bit of it.
We did. No, we did not.
We did a bit.
We did not.
I'm going crazy. Maybe you skipped ahead. I don't remember.
Oh, what's it called? Like we literally put like Oh, U.S. is a core country.
Okay, she may have mentioned it, but we didn't go.
Oh, okay. I kind of remember what you're talking about. It's fine. It's fine. Well, let's talk about what these terms actually mean. So, it's okay, people. It's fine. Chill out. Let's draw the model. Let's draw the model. We need a bullseye with 2 rings. Draw it. Oof. Mine's big. All right. Let's start with the middle, okay? The middle is what we call, ooh, can you see the pink? Is called our core countries. These are going to be what type of countries do you think?
MDCs.
Yeah, our MDC countries. Some examples would be, tell me.
USA.
Mhm.
What's it called? Switzerland.
Canada. Sure, I'll take Switzerland. What else?
Japan.
Sure, Japan. Great, that's 4. Yeah, you know what MDCs are, okay? So the core countries, these are our rich countries. This is where we'll have a lot of our like multinational corporations. Oh man, our big companies, okay, are located. The headquarters are located here in these MDC countries, okay. The next ring out are called the semi-periphery. The semi-periphery are like our NIC countries. So think about the examples that we talked about on the last slide, right? There are several NIC countries. So the relationship between the core and the semi-periphery is that the core really uses the semi-periphery to make all the stuff for them, right? Core countries are post-industrial, which means they are not making their money from those secondary level jobs anymore. Instead, they're relying on the tertiary quaternary levels. And these semi-periphery countries, these are the ones that are the factories. That is the semi-periphery. They're making all the stuff. They're the factories. They're the NIC countries, okay? So the relationship here is that the core countries really kind of use the semi-periphery to give them all the stuff, okay? The last ring is called the periphery. These are the LDCs of the world, okay? And the same way that the core uses the semi-periphery countries, the semi-periphery does the same thing with the periphery countries, okay? We call this term exploitation. They exploit each other. They use each other for the resources that they have, okay? So the periphery countries are really the ones that are focused on those primary resources like we've been talking about for the last few weeks. They are making their money off of the mining and the agriculture and the farming and the fishing and those things. And then they usually send those off to a factory in the semi-periphery. And then the semi-periphery usually sells that to the core countries, okay? And so it's this continuous kind of cycle of using each other. We call it exploitation, okay? So they kind of take advantage of each other is what it is. If you think about it, let's think about like t-shirts. Let's talk about t-shirts being our example of a product, okay? Let's say that we are a big, powerful company here in the U.S. and we want to sell t-shirts for $10 a t-shirt. It's not going to cost $10 to make that t-shirt, right? We probably bought that t-shirt. It probably may cost $3 to make that t-shirt in China. So if we bought 1 million t-shirts from China at $3 per t-shirt, how much did we pay China for those t-shirts? $3 million. But if we sell that t-shirt in the U.S. for $10, how much are we making a profit? We're making a $7 million profit off of that, aren't we? Do you think that the core countries are sharing that $7 million profit with the semi-periphery countries? No, they're not at all. They're pocketing that, right? So they're not sharing that profit. We're using them to make the stuff, and then we're selling it for a higher profit. Okay, what?
One example of like what China does. China does Africa.
That's exactly where I'm going. So in the same way, yeah, Daniel, you're right. So those t-shirts that were being made in China, let's say they got the cotton from Laos. That's probably wrong because I don't know what their climate is like. They probably don't make cotton. But let's say that they got all of their cotton from Laos. China did, okay? And then China turned it into the t-shirts, and then they sold it for $3 million. But did they buy all of that cotton for $3 million from Laos? No, they probably bought that cotton for maybe $500,000 and then pocketed the rest of it, right? So in the same way, the semi-periphery countries are doing the same thing to the periphery countries that we're doing to them. Okay, so it's this series of exploitation and using each other and taking advantage of each other because they can. So with Wallerstein, he says you're kind of stuck in this predicament of you can't really change levels. Whereas in Rostow, you can move up the ladder, right? With Wallerstein, he says, oh, you're just kind of stuck here. And he doesn't provide, here's a problem with it, he doesn't provide an explanation or a know-how of like, you can change levels. He doesn't really say, he doesn't tell us how to do that. What?
There's a little thing to this, like what's it called? This is like,
We still have 7 minutes, just so you know.
it's like a video game, like
And we're not done.
the really high level players keep killing the lower level players. Lower
Yeah.
level players kill the lowest
Yep.
level players.
Yeah.
And then like it'll take a much longer time for
Yeah.
lower levels to become higher levels.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so with this,